here today. I hope that is okay with everyone. And then here is our presentation here. So welcome everyone. This is our second Adult Ed Level meeting, our monthly meeting for CATESOL. I'm the Adult Ed Level Chair, Song, and we have a Patty here.
Yes, I'm Patty, and I am the Adult Ed Level Assistant Chair. So
welcome everyone. So we were going to do this. Use your chat and select the person to say hello. But we have such a small group. I don't know.
No. It's vital. We have to do this. So just go to the chat.
Go to the
and
chat.
Say hello to anyone.
Yeah, so you can put hello to anyone you want to say hi to.
Wait, I wrote Rob. Sorry.
I'm gonna do.
It automatically
did that. It auto-corrected. How dare the computer do that?
Great, wonderful. So this is the one like Patty actually learned this technique where she learned how you can do this with your students as well.
Well, I'll explain. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let me go ahead then. Oh, did you want to share this during your?
No, not right now. I'll say what. I'll explain why we're doing this.
Share. Excellent. So that's just one activity. So welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. We can share our name, what you teach, what level, and then where you are located, and then how long you've been a CATESOL member. So that's going to be our quick little introduction. So I'll go ahead and start. My name is Song Hong. I'm the, again, adult level chair. I've been with CATESOL for about 8 or 9 years. I live in Fullerton in Orange County. And I teach at 3 different colleges, all continuing education. I work at Saddleback. I teach the beginning literacy level students online. And I teach at Santa Ana College. I'm a citizenship coordinator. I'm a part-time there. And also I teach at North Orange Continuing Education. I'm a citizenship instructor. So, but I'm mostly teaching remotely since the pandemic. So I'm working from home. So I'll hand it over to maybe Patty.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I am Patty Sanchez, and I have been with CATESOL, I would say, for about 4 years. And I work for Santa Ana College as well, and I'm a coordinator there. And then I also work for NOCE. They're both I'm both in the continuing education schools, and I teach intermediate low in person. And I'm glad to be back in the classroom. It's fun. It's different than online. I love online. I miss it, but it's nice to be back in the classroom and have like a physical presence with students. It's different. I mean, we want to say it's not, but it is. So thank you. And I guess I'm going to go around in my square. Roz?
Yeah, I agree with you. I miss it too. So I'm Roz Tolliver, and I had to realize that just made me think about it. This is my 14th year with CATESOL, which is kind of cool. I teach at Fairfield Sassoon Adult School in the Bay Area. Do you guys know where Fairfield is? So it's about 20 miles south of Napa. So it's about halfway between San Francisco and Sac. Okay. So right in the middle. But I live in Merced, which is in the Central Valley, about halfway between Modesto and Fresno. I've been online since January 2019, so long before the pandemic. I've been online a long time, and I do miss being in the classroom. I love the technology, but I really do miss, seeing my students. I'm a hugger and coming from behind and touching. I miss all that. I teach a high flex now. It's kind of I think Alyssa titled it from OTAN, said it was like a reverse high flex, because I'm still online. Obviously, I'm not going to Fairfield, 2-hour drive to teach. And some of the students are in the classroom, and then some are online with me. So it's kind of a challenge. I also teach at the community college level, but I took this semester off. I was teaching out at Madera Community College, which is also out here in in the Valley. And I'm so happy to see you ladies. Congratulations on being the chair and assistant chair. We're in good hands. I have had both of those jobs before and I was thrust into it. I didn't know what I was doing. One of my friends was like, you'd be great. And I was like, what do I do? So I'm really glad that you guys are doing this. I never even thought about having a monthly meeting well, I guess it was before the pandemic too. So this makes it really convenient. And
Well,
I'm happy to be here.
Roz, if you want to revisit, we're gonna have this position open, because
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I'm
Yeah,
planting the seed, or even Joanna,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'll do it
If they
again.
can-
We'll see. We'll see. All right, Joanna, go ahead.
So I'm in San Diego, and I was chatting with Song and Patty before you joined. So I also teach high flex. I have three places where I work. One is the College of Continuing Ed here in San Diego, and I teach high flex there. The more traditional high flex, where I'm in the classroom with students, and some are there and some are at home. I teach also at San Diego State University, and I work at a high school where I work with virtual learners, virtual academy kids, and I do some tutoring and things like that.
Very
You guys are
nice.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Great. Good, good, good. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your semester. How's your semester going so far? So I mean, for me, this semester, it's been very, very busy. With just a lot of, I think, responsibilities. Even though I'm working and teaching from home, once a week I go to one of the school campuses for some work, and just a lot of lots of meetings, Zoom meetings, and I find myself sometimes just sitting in front of my computer for hours and hours. And I was just, Patty and I actually had a meeting this morning at 8. And I actually been sitting on this spot, like meetings since then. I mean, I took little breaks in between, but it's been very busy semester, but I really am happy to have my classes and my students. And I think my students are my motivation because they are just so eager and happy to see me whenever I join them via Zoom. And I get about 30 to 35 beginning literacy students joining me via Zoom and just looking at their faces and with their big smiles, and they go, "Hi, teacher." They are so happy to see me whenever they join me. And I see them every night, Monday through Thursday. So 4 nights a week. So that's been kind of the highlight of my week this week. So yeah. I'll pass it. Maybe we should go backwards now. I'm gonna pass it to Joanna.
Well, I mean, my semester's going well. Like I said, I've got the 3 jobs. So the high school started back January 3rd, the semester, and then San Diego State started the 19th, and we were remote for the first 2 weeks. So I taught on Zoom for the first 2 weeks. And then we're back traditional there now. And then my continuing ed semester ended the last week in January, and the new semester started February 3rd. So that's a tough startup. And so I'm just now in the place where I'm feeling like I'm getting into a routine, and things are settling down a little bit. So that's great. I don't know who's next, because the way you guys were talking about the order is not what I see on my screen.
Okay,
So.
you can
Well, I
name
went
one.
right before you, so I think it
Oh.
probably would be me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So things have been actually I had a death in the family. My mother passed away last month. And so yeah, thank you. And so I've been really just multitasking with that, because now both of my parents are gone. There's a lot going on. And so I'm not at the college, but I'm still really busy with a lot of different things. So besides my class, which is high intermediate to advanced, it's not transitions anymore. I don't know what happened to that term, but hi, Karen. I'm just teaching Tuesdays and Thursday nights. I feel like I'm not doing anything, like I'm not doing enough listening to you guys. I feel like I need to do something else. But yeah, I'm staying pretty busy. They've gotten used to the students that hop online. They really like the flexibility of, if they feel like going into the classroom, then they can go in, and if not, they'll hop online with me. And then I have some that they're always online for, babysitting or work reasons or something. So just really busy with that. It's kind of nice not having to do any grades or anything this semester. But I hear you on the meetings, because I do like presenting. So I had this thing with OTAN this morning I was on for a couple of hours, and then I have an intern from Fresno State. This is the second time I've had interns. I've had 3 before, that come and observe my class for the semester. So I work with him every Friday and prepare and stuff. So I try to. I'm retired from full-time work, on disability, so I just try to stay busy, and it's nice to do it, right in front of my computer.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And hi, Kara. Is it Kara or Kara?
It is Kara.
Kara. Okay, well, welcome. Well, I'll go next. So Kara, we're introducing ourselves. No, we're talking about how our day is going, right? How our semester is going. Sorry,
Yeah.
semester. So
Sorry for being late. I live in Oakland, and I was on 880 back from my dog training classes in San Jose. Traffic was crazy.
Wow.
no
Thank
worries. That's okay.
you.
So my semester is going okay. It's my second semester teaching in person. And I think I'm having a lot more fun this semester because you know how when you're teaching at a level and every semester you do something different and you feel like it gets better, or maybe it doesn't get better, it stays the same, even though your intention is for it to be better. I feel like this second semester teaching in person is going a lot better, because I figured out, like my funk, teaching in person as opposed to being online. And so it's really nice to have that connection with students. And then of course, there's things about the first semester that you want to make sure are improved in the second semester. So I feel like it's going a lot better. I'm transitioning better in my teaching live. And it's fun. And what I'm going to share with you today, which is how to establish community norms, is what I did this week. So I'm happy to share that with you because it's helping me this semester. And I think it's also helping students feel comfortable in the classroom, because some of them may have hesitated to come back in person because of the virus, but I think they're feeling secure because we have a lot of policies in place. And so everything is just feeling good. It's feeling really nice. So yeah, and I'm hoping that it'll end on the same note. So yeah, thank you.
Great. So Kara, would you like to introduce yourself? We kind of all shared where we are and what we teach and how long we've been with CATESOL.
Yeah. Kara Lazarus. I live in Oakland, and I teach in Marin for Madrone Adult School, and that's part of San Rafael City Schools Unified. Most of the students I teach, I'm teaching now in person. Thank you. I just really miss being in the classroom. And it's a small group, like between maybe around 15 students. And I hope that will grow as we move into the spring and summer, and with the levels of COVID lowering. So it's just so nice to be back in the classroom. I've been there about a year, and I've been like all over teaching. I'm semi-retired now. I teach 3 nights a week, and I'm also the coordinator for TEL, which is Technology Enhanced Language Learning. So, and I've been meaning to come to the last one, but I couldn't because of dog classes. And so I don't think it's going to be a conflict anymore. So what am I supposed to do now? What else?
And how your
They're young.
semester,
They're young.
yeah, how your semester is going this semester?
Yeah. Well, this is an unusual program because um, it's just not a typical ESL classroom like what is with remote learning and all that. But uh, because of the change in credits for a high school diploma, these students can only enter if they, un, most of them, intend to finish their high school diploma. But we do have some that don't need the units now and they're just still coming. Uh, but that's the way it's marketed because now you only need 130 units at the adult school level to graduate high school. So I teach side by side, and then I also teach from a reading book to expose them to a typical English class that's sheltered. So uh, I would say they're probably uh, intermediate intermediates, but some of them are low and some of them are high. So it's probably a multi-level, but most of them, centering around that intermediate level. And so it's great. I'm uh, I just got done coordinating with CIRT, CIRT, and we're doing a combined professional development for um, um, CATESOL. And then also, did everyone hear about uh, the I guess the regional CATESOL groups, of which this would be, I guess, Northern California? Have you been asked if you want to do something for a regional conference on Zoom? No? Doesn't sound familiar?
Yeah. I know there is the fall conference, the annual conference.
This one is like in April. And
Oh, like the spring conference then.
yeah, the spring one.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it used to be that each regional would have an in-person
Right.
conference. But now, because of Zoom, COVID, and all that, um, we can, the regional ones can put on a workshop if you want. Um, I would be happy if you don't have anything going on to use what we have as technology enhanced language learning and the regional, is it called Northern California? Is this
Northern
called Northern
California
California?
regional. Yeah, because I'm in Southern California, but I know we have different chapters. Or
Oh,
so
I meant,
maybe it's the Northern California chapter.
I don't know, but uh, maybe I could put this.
Have you talked to Anthony, our new
Yeah,
president? Oh, great. Yes.
yeah. I guess I gotta contact Northern California to see if they want to do something. But I do teach adults, and they're mainly like in their early 20s.
Mm,
Yeah.
excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Great. All right. So, oh, I see Roz's little puppy. Is that a puppy or a dog?
He's a dog, and I need Kara. I need the name of that obedience school.
This guy is like the best. He's very
Oh, my.
expensive, but he is the best. And there
Yeah, I
is,
bet.
they have like a training place in Vacaville, but the main one is in San Jose. Roz, I'll send you a link.
Well, no, I live in Merced. When I lived in Fairfield, so Vacaville is the neighboring town, right? You go from Fairfield into, when I lived in Fairfield, that would have been perfect. I live all the way in Merced now,
Oh,
almost in Fresno. So I did find somebody. He's a really
Oh.
good dog, but I've been on the computer too much today. And when he hears me talking, he thinks the meetings are over, and they haven't really been over. So I'm going right into the next one. So he wants his time in.
He
But I
looks
was
like
gonna,
a pup.
I unmuted oh, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
He looks like a pup.
He's
Mhm.
not. So he's almost 2. He's
Oh,
just small.
Mm,
This is as big as he's
boy.
gonna get, but
Oh.
he's spoiled. It's all my fault. But I was gonna say that I know that for the adult thing you were talking about, Kara, about the Northern Regional, so the chapters are totally different from the levels, right? I mean, so
right.
the adult
Right.
level, that's the whole state, yeah.
I
Because
got
Mhm.
we're
things
in the
for,
Yosemite one, and we haven't had the last regional we had was right before COVID. It was when I moved to Merced in 2019. We had it at Modesto Junior College, and we haven't had anything since.
Right.
So I didn't even know they had a Northern Regional last year. I didn't even realize that.
I don't know about
I think
last
they
year.
did.
So
Yeah, they were
last
having them at
year,
Santa Rosa.
yeah, last year because of the pandemic, we ended up having just the spring conference. It was done virtually, and it was kind of open to everyone. Now this
Mm.
year we're doing our annual conference in Pasadena, so it's gonna be in person in Pasadena, in Orange County, in LA, Los Angeles, in California. But as far as the regionals go, I think they probably talked about doing them virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's probably why you.
I
Yeah,
know Orange County did one because I attended it last
yes,
spring, I guess it was.
yes, yes. Great, good, good, wonderful. So I'm gonna move on. So what we're gonna do is I wanted to show you the CATESOL website where you can find the upcoming events, and then you can look for like the different resources and how to check out messages on the message boards. But based on what you shared, I mean, you probably all know about this website, and you can log in. You can check out the upcoming events. So our PD event will come up here, and you can click on the event to register. So, and if you want to go into the message board, you can go to communication and go to message boards. You can also go under resources, and then you can access online training. You just have to be a member. So once you create your username is I think your email, and then you log in, then you can access all the resources here. So now I'm gonna pass this over to Patty, who's gonna talk about building a community. And Patty, would you like to share your screen or?
Oh, I guess you could just leave it like that, and I'll just say
Okay,
no.
great, great, great. So
Okay.
yes, take it away, Patty.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so I'm going to be talking about building a community. It can be either in person or online. And the reason this topic came up is because during our last meeting, when we asked our attendees what topics they wanted to for us to discuss, Saban said she would, she wanted to talk about how to build a community online, and establish classroom norms. So I'll be talking about classroom practices and how you can have students acknowledge each other and why that's important. I'll be talking about identifying what makes students feel ignored when learning, and then identify what makes learning enjoyable and how you can get all that rich information with little mini assignments. Okay, next. Okay, so I want to talk about student presence, and we can just share out how are students acknowledged when they enter your online classroom or your physical classroom, like in person. How are they acknowledged? Yeah.
Are you asking?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, probably like all of you guys. I mean, I'm so chummy with mine. We chop it up, and then I'm like, okay, we have to start the class. So I acknowledge, even if I'm in the middle of a lesson and my students tend to come late after class has started online, I'll just, without skipping a beat, hey, Armida, good to see you, glad you made it, type of thing. So I always try to acknowledge every student when they come in.
Nice. Okay.
I know I do too. And I even if we're in the middle of something, I will always greet them by name. And they typically want to say, "Hi, teacher, how are you?" And even though we're like in the middle of the lesson, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm fine. How are you?" You know, like so. Yeah. I also, because I teach high flex, I ask all of the students to write their names and say hello to everyone in chat. And I've actually, one of the new things I'm doing this semester is I've even started asking the students who are physically present in the classroom to join the Zoom meeting and to say hello and chat to everyone also. Um, so I don't know, I'm trying a lot more. I'm actually having, and this is separate from acknowledging, but I'm trying to have the students in the classroom be more present on the Zoom, and it's partly the community building. I mean, I'm trying to find ways, and I'd love to talk to you more about this, Roz, of making it less two separate, the roomies and the Zoomies. I want to try to make it one class, and I'm looking for ways to do that. But anyway, sorry, I'll stop talking now.
No, that's great. No,
Mhm,
wonderful.
mhm.
Anyone else? When students walk in the door or when they enter your Zoom classroom?
I do the same as what Roz said. So whenever students, because they join my Zoom, whenever they join, I like to say hi to everyone and I call everyone's name. So if like if I been sharing my screen and then when I unshare and I see someone new, I go, "Oh, Michael, hi," or whoever I see for the first time for that day or for that class, I try to acknowledge. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Should I go
I
back?
do the same.
Oh.
I do the same as well. And as I have to be in early before my class starts to have, it's called class hours, instructor classroom time. And if somebody comes in early and class is not started, because I do get paid for it, I will tutor them wherever they're at. If they missed a class, then I'll catch them up as best I can. And then when class starts, greet them and always like, I'll just, it doesn't take much to just say hi and call out their name, even if you're teaching. And then when we're done with that, usually I'll wait until after the warm up and maybe a little like an idiom and pronunciation. So it's a routine that I start with. There's enough time lapse that usually the latecomers are there, and I'll ask them how their weekend was, and so we share a lot.
Mhm.
Thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
All right, great.
I'll
Well,
go
thank
back.
you.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like everyone does a wonderful job acknowledging their students when they come into class, even if you're in the middle of a lesson, which is fantastic. And so this is important. So I see that, you have, you as an instructor, you are acknowledging your students. But when we want to talk about like, how can we create that community, that sense of community and belonging, when I had you say, go to the chat and say, okay, say hello to someone specifically, right? Like not just like hello everyone, like look at the little tiles, the boxes, and then see who you can reach out to and just say hello. And we do that because when you actually acknowledge someone by their name, it just gives them that greater sense of belonging in the classroom. Right. So one thing is teacher student greeting. Another thing is like student to student greetings. So you want students to reach to go into the chat room and just say hello, because then we don't just become like this classroom where everybody's isolated in their physical spaces, because we can be apart in different cities. But if we're saying hello to each other and identifying that classmate, oh, that's Roz. I see her all the time. She comes to class. I'm going to say hello to Roz. It creates familiarity, right? And that's what we want to do from the get-go to create that sense of belonging in the classroom. Okay, next, please. Okay, so when you're thinking about establishing, community norms in your classroom, so like one of the things to do whether you're in person or online, is to, again, say hello to them by name. And then you want to have students to get to know each other. And this is an activity that they're going to be doing student to student. It's not going to be, teacher student led. You can have students be in groups in breakout rooms if you're teaching online, and or you can group them in the classroom. And then you could just have them ask and have this very informal chat asking about what is your favorite subject or activity in school or home? What do you like to do in your free time? Do you have a hobby? What obligations do you have besides school? And what is your favorite movie? And name a favorite musician group from your country or the US. And this is, so the purpose of this is to really delve into like, who is sitting next to me when I walk into the classroom, who is sitting across the classroom, or who is in this virtual space that I see all the time. Maybe I don't see their face, I see a name, but I don't really know who they are. So this is like a nice preface before you have students brainstorm what they're going to be doing in the activity where you create classroom norms. I don't know what you all do in the classroom to create that sense of like belonging and contact with each other. Do you do this at the very beginning, or do you do it like as an isolated activity later on in the semester? Because for me, I just did this with my students, and there's a reason for that. I'm following reading apprenticeship, and so this is one of the things that they have, one of the activities that they encourage. And so I tied this with an EL Civics packet, which is about community. So I kind of like purposely, aligned it so it worked out. But I don't know when you do this in the classroom, if you do it at the beginning or later on in the semester.
I do it both.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Please go.
Okay, I was going to say that I've always done them as icebreakers. My favorite thing, and I don't know, I've got the book somewhere. Oh, here it is. So this is my favorite, right? Make it easy on you. Is the surveys for conversation. Anybody use this?
No, but I'm going to write it down.
Oh, I love, and this is like, they used to be kind of a mom and pop publisher, and then they sold to somebody big, but like this first one, and I wish I had where I could think where it was on my screen quickly, but I don't know if you guys can see this. So what I love is that it gives them a lot of support. I have them write their answers first, and I'm always trying to, the one thing that I do, Joanna, to try to build that community is I always have them work together. I put them in breakout rooms for everything. The ones online and the ones in the class work together anyway, but they answer these few questions. And that way they have some support. Some of them, when they work together, they're literally, they're just reading it, but others are able to go through it a little, more naturally and talk about it. And they go over all the questions, and it always spurs really good conversation. But I use those at the very beginning, and then periodically I vary my activities a lot, but usually at least once every couple of weeks, they're doing something. I also use Flipgrid for it. So I'll have them like the questions that you had. It's hilarious because I had them talk about their favorite song. Every student sung their song. These people were not shy. I mean, and they were singing and gesturing and playing it in the background, but they were able to do it. And then the other students watched and got a kick out of it. And we watched everyone's videos and things like that. But I agree that that's a great idea because everybody wants to talk about what they like and what they do. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Joanna. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. My students, their level of English is so low that they can't answer a lot of the questions that you guys were sharing. But what I do is I try to get as many of them as who are willing to share their photographs with me, because I'm, again, high flex, and then I put those into my PowerPoints. And so we start off with, personal information. My name is, what's your name? His name is. And so I can share. Can I share my screen? Is that okay? I don't know if I have anything up here right now. Let's see that I can show maybe some of my my lessons from a little while ago, but so I try to get the students their photographs up there if they're willing, and some of them aren't, and that's fine too. But I'll, so when I start off with like, what's his name and what's her name, I try to use famous people that they'll think they recognize. So they know Neymar and Kim Kardashian. They didn't know Nelson Mandela, and they didn't know maybe Michael Jackson. Anyway, but then I try to get the students. Do I have? Yeah. So I've got this is a later one. So they're starting to learn vocabulary words here for these things for the what he needs a dictionary. So these actual photos of my students, the ones who are willing to share. And so then I also have photos of them where I'm saying, what's his name? And we all have to say, that's Wilgie. What's his name? That's Kenson. And also, so we're starting to move now into family, who's married, who's single, who has brothers and who has sisters. And so again, I've got, I'm trying to remember when I did it, like, yeah, so I can show you here that we're doing who's married. And so these again are my students. That's me and my husband. And then that's Muhammad and Sayamoy and Mark Ellie and Magali. So the textbook has fake people, right? Like cartoon images of people, and we learn. So I'm trying to get them to learn that same vocabulary, but with their own family members, so that first of all, I think it's more meaningful to them to actually say this is my brother as opposed to this is Sophie's brother in the textbook, but also to get them to know each other. So they're learning English, but also learning their classmates. That's my goal there. I hope that's working.
I love that. I've never seen the way you wrote out the question so that students practice using the pronouns. That's
yeah.
clever. That never even occurred to me. I love that idea. I'm gonna steal it.
Yeah, I need to stop telling people I should do a presentation.
Your slideshows are just gorgeous. The way you have them organized with a little picture that you can just look at the picture and know what it is.
Yeah, so I've got these, or we'll practice these dialogues together where they're anonymous people. And let's see, they asked me that I had single and married, and they were like, what if you're, and again, these guys are like such beginners, like they live together and they have children together, but they're not married. Yeah, okay, so like these are my students, right? Is she single or married? And this is Riza, and we all so we get to know each other. And Mark Ellie, he's married. Kenson, he's in a relationship. Yeah, they made me tell him about the relationship, which was great. And
wow, talk about building community, huh? Like they really get to know each other.
This is so good.
This is super authentic.
Thank you so much. And then I also I started, this is just for me, so that I've got the pictures that they sent me. Oh, sorry, my typing, that's a 0, not an O. So these are like the classes so far of all the students that have sent me. And we have been doing pronouns, so you can see in this case, like I've underlined and bolded the pronouns in that case. Yeah, so yeah, but I have ones. I mean, I don't want to go wasting your time while I search for things, but I've totally got things where it's one student with the speech bubble coming out of their mouth, talking to another student saying, yeah, like this, right? Like, do you know Marina? Yes, I know Marina. She's married to Jose Luis, things like that. And then, yeah, so anyway, that's my little attempt. Yeah, to
Oh, thank you for
That's
sharing.
really wonderful.
Yeah, that's so impressive.
English.
Wow.
Well, thank you. And that's really nice to hear that your wows are really nice. Thank you.
So Sevian, thank you for joining us. So we're talking about what kind of questions do you want your students to ask each other so that they become better acquainted with one another, so that before you start talking and discussing community norms, they know who their classmates are and they know more about them, so that when they're addressing community norms, we get a better sense of what can be said, what can be established so that we feel safer being free to vocalize our thoughts, right? And I think what Joanna just showed, it's like, wow, I think it makes it even more intimate because you really get to know like their personal life, because it's like, here's a picture of my wife or my daughter, or, that's really nice. Yeah. Sorry, you're muted.
Actually had last semester, I had the students make a family tree, like they all got their own slide on a Google Slides, and they put their family tree there and had to tell us who everyone was. Not all of them did it, but that was a pretty fun activity, and the ones who did it really enjoyed it, I think. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share?
So I wanted to share really quickly, like my students, because I teach beginning literacy students, and that was my issue was like, oh, they cannot really speak, like they're learning ABCs. And so I initially in the beginning, I didn't put them in breakout rooms because I didn't want them to just sit there, stare at each other and not knowing like what to say. But what I found out was that they love to practice. They love to speak in English. So what I do is I model. So the favorite things we do, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? We do very, very simple questions. I give them like 2 questions and I send them to small breakout rooms for like 3 minutes. And then they go. And then before they get bored, they come right back to me. And then I send them again, but I recreate the room. So each time they go, they have to talk to new classmates and they are just repeating these questions. So in the beginning, many of them needed more help, but now as like we're about 2 months into the semester, now they're really comfortable. So now I'm giving them other questions like, what do you do on the weekend? And then we do like, and then before I send them, I model, I put the question and sample answer in the chat. And then I also share out my screen to the breakout rooms. So students have like a sample question to look at. And just, I make it very simple, but whenever I try to do like a survey, whenever I ask them, what's your favorite activity? And most of my students say conversation in breakout rooms. So when I'm not there, they're really enjoying themselves with like 2 other classmates and they just carry out their own conversations. It's really cute. I highly recommend. And because the Zoom has this new feature, you can send them automatically. That's been working beautifully. And just don't give them too much time though, because they may not know how to carry a conversation for that long. So I just give them like 3 minutes at the max, and then that's just enough, I think. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I think Savon has a question.
Oh, I just wanted to share too, as well. Yeah, I also love breakout rooms. I teach intermediate low multi-skills right now. And what I do is as soon as they come to class, I throw them right into a breakout room. So as they're coming in, they go into breakout rooms and they see the question on my screen and take a picture. And you could also share your screen to breakout rooms. And then they go like right away and they talk for usually like 7 to 10 minutes. And then I really like that because it's more like free talk at the beginning of class, but I always give them some prompt. And one of my favorite things to do is this or that. Here's like an example from yesterday. So they have to choose, art class or music class, and then explain why, online or in person, why. And because it's intermediate low, I give them like a sentence stem that they can use to help them get started, because some of them need that, some of them don't. And then when they come back, I have them report about their classmate, one thing that they heard in the chat. So yeah, and if you just Google like this or that, you can find thousands on the internet. I think it's a social media thing, but they're really good for like conversation starters too. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's really neat. That's a beautiful slide.
Oh, thank you.
So perfect the layout. That's really, because it looks so welcoming, right? It looks really nice and, encouraging. Well, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Okay, anyone else before we move on? Kara?
Well, I've just been transitioning back to in class. So I usually put them in triads and I have sentence or things to talk about, conversation corner, I call it. And I give them a few up on the board on a slideshow, a few things to talk about. And they can choose one of those, or they can choose their own. So it's similar to what other people have reported out.
Thank you. Okay. Well, great. So, that's great. So what's, why you do this is because you want to make sure that students become familiar with each other, because they're going to be working together in the classroom, either in pairs or triads, like Kara said, or maybe they're going to be working in projects, right? They have, I don't know, they can be working on a project where there's, 4 students involved or 3. And so it's really important for students to know who their partner is, what are their likes, what are their preferences? Do they have something in common? How can they connect with each other? So after you have like this step established, we can then go on to talk about, next slide, please, Song. To talking about a safe place to learn. Because depending on your student population and, the demographics, they might have had a different experience in their schooling. And so maybe some behaviors are acceptable, maybe some are not, but then they come here to America and we have a different way of interacting with our peers. And so some of the questions that I ask my students, and I do send them off to work in groups, is to answer these questions, like what makes a classroom a safe place to learn? And they might not understand that question. So I might give them an example because, I think when I was asked this question, what makes a classroom a safe place to learn? I myself didn't fully understand that. I was like, what are they talking about? Like, are they talking about like physically what makes me feel safe, or emotionally? And so, so you might want to give them an example, like, for example, like making sure that people don't laugh at my question, or, feeling that people are not going to say a negative comment because I've shared something personal about myself, or maybe the answer that I gave is inaccurate and someone's going to correct me on the spot. So that's what is meant by what is a safe place to learn for you. And then they can answer the other questions. What will make you feel comfortable to ask questions in the classroom? When you are in the classroom, what helps you learn or not learn? How should you behave during class time? And believe it or not, students love these questions because they really get into like expressing their emotions and talking about what makes them feel good. So this is really nice because it helps them segue into establishing class norms. And I usually give about 7 minutes, between 7 to 10 minutes, to talk about these questions, but it might run longer because they really get into like talking about the classroom and past experiences. It just depends on who's in the classroom and, how much they're talking about. But once you've established like this, we can go on to like the next slide. Song, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clock. I know it's 5. You could go into talking about group work. So when they have talked about like what makes you feel safe to learn in the classroom, you want to put them in groups and then have them talk about like what behaviors should be established so that when a student walks into the classroom and is sitting in the class and is learning, what should they do? What is, like, how should they behave? What are the do's and the don'ts of the classroom? And so, I'll give an example, like, everybody should be on time. So then that gets students thinking about like the most simplest of classroom behaviors. And so when you have them do this, then you ask them to make a list of behaviors that all students should follow. And so I give them like a big piece of like chart paper. It's almost like a big giant Post-it. And I hand them markers. And then what they do is they discuss the classroom behaviors, like what are their expectations, what they hope students will do when they come into the classroom, how they expect students will interact with each other. And then they start writing the classroom norms in pencil. And it's really funny because they want to be super perfect about how they list the behaviors. And then afterwards, they go over the behaviors with a marker. And so then afterwards, what students will do is share their Post-it and discuss the classroom norms. And I did this week, and I took pictures of what students wrote. Song, if you can go to slide number 13.
Yeah, could I actually, I think Kara has a question.
Oh, okay. Kara?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that there's, I know that what they talk about in that previous slide, could you put that up for a second?
Sure, yes. Let me go right here.
When students talk about this in small groups, a safe place to learn, to have closure on that slide, do you ask them to share something?
Yes.
Like one? Yeah, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they do share out. So I still keep them in their groups. And then I ask for volunteers to share out, like, what makes them feel comfortable to ask questions. They can choose any of the questions. They can answer and address any question. And it's really nice because they really do want to share with the entire class what their thoughts are or what experiences that they have had in their past learning. So yeah, thank you for reminding me. I do have them share out.
And with the Post-its, they share out as well. That takes a lot of time. Have you thought just a
like the
thought
sharing part or the writing part?
The sharing part, but it's important. Sometimes when you have the Post-its up or something on chart paper, I do a gallery walk if my time is growing tight.
I haven't run out of class time. So there's enough time for us to share out, but that's a good idea as well. Like if you've run out of time, they can do a gallery walk. But they sit there brainstorming together, talking about what's going to make, the classroom a better place for them to learn. And for example, they come up with, with this list, be quiet, listen, don't be late, come prepared, respect each other, turn off the cell phone, do not make fun of others, be honest, do homework well, don't be ashamed. So they had no help from me. I mean, I might have given them like a few examples when students were sharing out, like depending on what students were contributing to the discussion. Like for example, one student said, don't discriminate. And I said, that's fantastic. Yeah, like make that part of like the classroom norms. And then that prompts other students to feel more comfortable to express what they want to be part of the classroom norms. So then they'll start talking about like, respecting each other. And so it kind of like just creates like this domino effect where students just get really creative and they take the classroom norms really seriously. The next one.
Should I go back to number 12?
I'll come back to that right now.
Okay. So
Yeah, thank you. Yes. This is another example. And so they wrote education rules. I don't correct, they can do whatever they want, I noticed they wrote in parentheses, B-I, if they weren't too sure, but I don't go over the spelling. I don't point out errors at all. Be polite, cell phone off, good acts, right? Punctuality, gentle, respect for everything, vision goals, area space. They meant to say, keep your area like nice and tidy. Responsibility, don't write in the textbook. So, because I have a classroom set, and so that's what they use, right? And sometimes they'll find that, a previous student has written the answers in the book and they get upset because, they want the challenge of, coming up with the answer. So this is really nice because once you've established like the community norms, whatever else happens after that point, you can always reference the classroom norms, right? You can say, okay, we're going to be doing this activity, but remember, we're going to feel a little bit vulnerable. We're going to feel a little bit aware about how we're feeling, or we're going to be talking about a very private moment. about our learning, and we want to remember that we're going to respect what we're saying. And then that just makes them feel like, okay, like, yeah, this is why we created these classroom norms, and we're just going to, listen and be attentive to everyone's share outs. But if
Yeah,
you go back to,
Sorry, Patty, so
uh-huh.
Savian has a question. Are you able to keep the classroom norms up throughout the semester?
Oh yeah, they're up there on the wall. They don't come down.
Oh, that's so nice. I don't think I could do that in my classroom. I'm not sure though,
Really?
but that's really nice that you can keep them there. And
I do. When I taught like 2 years ago in person, I did share a classroom,
Mm,
but we had like a space for every instructor to put up like their classroom norms on the wall.
mm. Oh,
So
very
nobody
nice.
took down each other's work,
Okay.
and then right now I have the classroom to myself. So, but I did ask
Nice.
permission,
Mhm.
like the teachers that were there before me, I did ask if I could take down the work that was up there, because I was going to be using the walls, and that was not a problem. But yeah.
Oh,
I
very
have a
cool.
question. When each group does their own norms and then shares out, that's a lot of norms. How do you whittle it down?
Um, They they are a lot of norms, but like, what do you mean? Like, not like to talk about them, or just follow like a few?
Well, what do you post? Do you post everyone's
Every
up?
Oh yeah. So like the
Oh,
paper is
okay.
pretty big. So I pin it up on the wall, and every norm that was established, that's what we're gonna follow. It's not just about like, we're gonna look at this one post-it note and we like, these five. We're respecting all the norms that everybody came up with, and they're just reminders that that's what we agree to. But that's
And
a good question.
right. And actually for my class too, because my class did the norming as well. And we actually revisited our class norms. So we would do this at the beginning of the semester when students just like we start. So you're kind of setting up that kind of environment. And then about midway through the semester, we revisit and see like, oh, do you think this is still good? Is there anything you want to add or you want to take out? If everyone is following this rule, maybe we don't have to really worry about this one. And you can kind of let them choose, be kind of current with their commitment to these norms, and let them kind of revisit throughout the semester too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll go back, and I think Patty wanted to go back. Did you want to go back to slide number 12?
Yes.
Yeah, can
It
I
was
go
number
back?
12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the group one.
Um, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I also do walkabout bingo. And this is another activity that you can use with students as they're getting to know each other. And I do this before we establish the community rules, only because it gives us like a different way to get to know each other. So we had like the questions that you pose up on the board. Students are in discussion, are in groups, and they discuss the questions, and they get to know each other that way. But I also like to do this. And as you can see, this was like, I just grabbed chart paper, I cut it up into strips and little squares, and then I just write like, so like the idea is that you label each piece of paper, and then if students, for example, like the first one says, has a favorite book. If you have a favorite book, then go ahead and write your name. If you write poetry, go ahead and write your name in that square. So I cut them up and I put them on, different parts of the classroom. They're on the tables. And so I tell them, you can just walk around. You don't have to talk to anyone, read the chart paper. And then if you feel that that's an activity that you do, then go ahead and write your name. If you don't do that activity, don't write your name. So it's just another way to get to know each other and see what interests everyone has outside of school, right? So, and this is all about reading, because I kind of like centered it more on reading. And so, yeah, it's fun for them. They get a real kick, but you can ask whatever you want. It doesn't have to be about reading. It could be something totally different.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So what do you do after they walk around? Like, do you do a gallery walk or do you?
Yeah. So I kind of time it before we're going to break.
Okay.
because it gives me time to like put it up on the board. And so then I ask students, and they're walking around. I mean, as they're doing this, they're
Yeah.
really aware of who's, what student has written their name on each, little tile. And then I put it up on the board, and then I go over, like when we get back from break, I do ask them to like, any thoughts about, like your classmates? Are you surprised that so-and-so does, writes poetry? And so it's just a really nice community building activity.
Mhm.
And they love it. It's a lot of fun. It really it gets students away from feeling nervous about being in the classroom and not being sure if they can be open about how they think and how they speak, and how they share.
Mhm.
So,
Lovely.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's really
Cool.
thank you.
And then this one, maybe?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I know that, we all teach differently, like we have different modalities. So some ways that you can share student work or like the classroom norms is to make it a page in a module. So for example, I know I like to use Padlet when I teach online. And so like I will save it as a PDF, and then I will upload it as a page into Canvas. You can, and this is if you're teaching online, right? If you have a picture or if you have a PDF, I always send it to my students as an email as well. So I do it two ways. I create a page and then I send it to my email, to my students via email. And then you can have it as your permanent classroom norms, and you can save it in Canvas. And then depending on like what they wrote, right, in their classroom norms, maybe you can have students address one of the norms and ask how they feel about that specific norm. Or maybe you can have after the activity, if you're doing this online, and again, so I did this in person. I think that if you're going to be doing this online, you might want to create like a Google document. That way students can share live, what they feel should be classroom norms. And when you're going to share out, or when you're discussing the classroom norms that everyone has stated, maybe you can have students create an I statement, right, in the chat. So maybe they might want to, just reaffirm, a norm that they feel speaks to them. So for example, they can write, I will turn my microphone off when I am not talking, right? Because, there's different funks that happen in the online classroom that don't happen in the in-person classroom. I will participate more in breakout rooms. I will ask questions because I feel safe. So this is just one way to make sure that students reflect on the classroom norms that they have established, and so that it doesn't just become like a static page in Canvas. So yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Do you have any questions for Patty? That's really wonderful, Patty. Thank you for sharing all those activities.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I think it's really challenging, when you're teaching online, and I haven't thought of a way to like really make sure that the norms are reviewed, in a consistent manner. Like, I don't know, like, I know we have two teachers here who teach high flex. I don't know how you do that in your classroom.
I don't know either. I've never done that. It's really interesting. Everything you guys showed was super interesting, and I'm still in the student pictures thing for sure. But I've never done that. I've never had the students come up with it, because normally at the very beginning I do a syllabus. So for the adult school, and I've done that for years, and I go over what my expectations are. And then if something happens to come up, which is rarely, I mean, I think I only had one student in 6 years, where I had an issue that we had to address. So for the most part, my classroom management is non-existent, just because my students are so respectful. They all are engaged. I can always tell when a student isn't going to last because they're not paying attention and they're not following along. I know I won't see them again. So I haven't felt the need. And my students I've been really fortunate that the level I teach, they're really motivated and want to participate, that I haven't done this, but I'm rethinking it, wondering if that's something that I need to do. But I don't know. Yeah, and especially in this high flex environment, I've got the online stuff and then I have the in-class stuff. And I don't know how it is for you, Joanna. You're actually in the classroom, so you're looking at the students that are on the screen. But for me, I'm looking at, and I try to make it bigger, but I'm still looking at this photograph of my class. I can't see anybody individually. They're all wearing masks for whatever reason. And you guys are going to love this. They still sit in the back. Hey,
Oh, no.
nobody sits in the first two rows, and I'm always like, you could, if you can't, they'll do like this, like I can't see, but they will not move up. They all sit in the back. And so I don't know what's up with that, but so it's really difficult for me to kind of manage a lot of things there. So, I'm not sure if you've done the norms thing, Joanna, with having the high flex. So
And the only thing, and I think you guys probably are all familiar with this, is that I have to be pretty insistent that they mute when they're listening, So I suppose instead of collaborating and letting them come up with that idea, I do have to kind of insist on it. And but the students also, like, sometimes the students will say, excuse me, teacher, I need to speak in my language for a moment, and they're yelling at the other students to put their phones on mute. So I mean, that's probably the only sort of thing that's come up. And I have also I have videos and I have lots of images about how to mute yourself. And I mean, it's hard because of course I want them to feel like they can ask questions and interrupt. And I've tried to teach, to use reactions, to raise your hand, to type in the chat. And we're getting there, just slowly. But yeah, I mean, I like your idea of maybe posting it on Canvas. One of the things that I do with, with the high flex classes is that I email the students before the class with the slides that I'm going to use to say these are today's class slides. And a lot of times the students will be in the slides, like I can see them in the slides while I'm going through them in class. And that would be a good place for me to put class norms if that's something that we do. Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
use
I mean,
Canvas?
I had a moment the other night where a student asked a question and a lot of the students laughed, and it was kind of a funny question, but I did worry that he felt bad, so I think that's an important thing to do.
Yeah. So you're using Canvas as well, Joanna?
Yeah, my class has 3 components: the mandatory either face-to-face or Zoom, like together at the same time, and Canvas, and then we have an optional Zoom only.
Got it. Yeah. Because we have Google Classroom. That's what we're using at the adult school. I had to fight to get Zoom. We were using Google Meet, and you can't mute people. At least on Zoom, you can mute someone if you realize that you're having a problem, but you can't do it on Google Meet. So I had to fight to get that. But I do like Google Classroom for that same reason, that you can post things ahead of time and they can go in and take a look at it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. I post it in Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
For those with limited wall space, I put a classroom screens, a website, and you can put text box on it, and you can save up to 2 screens. It has a lot of little gadgets and gizmos, so you might want to visit that. It's right in chat.
Thank
So
you.
I opened it, Kara. Is this like a whiteboard or this is something permanent? What is this?
It's a whiteboard for free. You can save, and you can change the background. They'll just give you a background, and if you click down at the bottom where it says screens, the background will change. So why don't you click that background just to show you? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
I'm trying to
Wow.
find screen. What does it say screen?
It says background,
Background, far left.
Background,
far
background.
left. the
Oh,
far-
okay.
Yeah, mine is like a meerkat. I got it.
Oh. Oh, this is really nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh. Well, thank you for
And so
sharing.
do you use this for lessons, or Kara, you were saying like you use it for your classroom rules, or how do you use this in the classroom?
I use it for, let's just go back for a minute. I can show you some things. when I put them in groups, and I don't like to be the bad guy timing them, so I'll use the timer. And then for I don't need I have wall space. I can post classroom agreements, but also down at the bottom. I don't know. I just am not too much into codes, but there is a QR code you can post those.
Great.
And then the dice to play games. And oh yeah, this is I tried this random names, and maybe you want to on the same screen you want to save everyone in the classroom. You can then have it call on people randomly.
Oh, no, okay, I see it right
That's
here.
nice. Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so you have to type in the student names, correct?
Yeah, you just you can copy the roster and
Yeah.
then but the problem is if somebody isn't there that night, but it does skip it says, okay,
Oh, that's really neat.
don't choose this name again tonight. And then, oh yeah, these symbols, this is good. Click this work symbols. So you can have those, you have 4, like, yeah. And then I like to always have the calendar up and the clock, just so they know what time it is. And you can make that bigger and smaller. I just put it where we don't have to look at the date. So if you make it smaller, you can reduce it down to just the date, to the green.
Oh,
Yeah. And then I like the clock because I don't put it, let's see. So if you got to click on the 12. Oh, if you want to set it, no, it's okay. It's set right, but you can have a 24.
Oh,
yeah.
Military time.
Yeah. And I like to set it for just for the clock because then they have to tell what time it is using a clock.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, this is neat.
That's great.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, what do you think of next, huh?
Yeah.
Well, this is great for even in-person teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see
That's
myself
what I
using
use
this
it
in
for
person.
Great.
And if you save it with the, I was thinking with the classroom agreements, then you can put it right on the board. I don't use a pull down screen much. I just keep, unless I have something underneath it, then.
Like on the whiteboard. You just,
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Wow.
You can write on it on the whiteboard.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for great ideas, everyone. Wow. We're one small but very mighty group here.
Yeah,
I just Googled
the
class. I just Googled the classroom screen. Do you just like set up an account and anyone can use it? Or is it free?
Well, yeah, it's free, but they do have a paid version. I think you can save 3 screens for free or 2.
Well, Joanna, I'm glad you're going to have students address each other tonight as they come in.
That's great.
Yeah, see how it works. I hope it goes well. I also, I was in another meeting before I joined this one, and I had the same suggestion that I think it was you, Patty, made at the beginning of this meeting, to put the students in breakout rooms for a short period of time with 1 or 2 questions, and then to bring them out and then recreate the room so they answer the same questions again with different students.
I think it was someone else. It wasn't me.
Oh, maybe me. Yeah, it might. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that was actually a suggestion in the meeting I came from before I came to this one. And I haven't done that. I usually, just put them in a breakout room and then come back and have them share with us. So I'm pretty excited to try it. I'm going to try that tonight too. So yay, I'll have 2 brand new ideas that I can implement as soon as I end this meeting.
That's
That
wonderful.
with my in-person students.
Can you put your slide website, the link in chat?
Yeah, actually, what we're going to do is when we're done, we're going to share the recording and then we're going to turn this into a PDF. We're going to kind of touch it up and then we will email them to you so that to all the participants, there are just 6 of us. so that you can have this with you, but I'll probably send this out next week because usually the recording, it takes like a few days for them to get it ready. But what I did is I put the OER link in the chat. So if you take a look at, this is a Google Doc, which you can actually edit, you can add more resources. This is a list of resources that Patty and we've been kind of adding to this since our annual conference from last year. So if you scroll down, there are a lot of different teaching resources. But if you go to the very last page here, then there we've shared a lot of OER, online educational resources, like the audio books that you can share, storybooks with your students, and it shows different levels. So you can see grammar websites, the websites that you can use with your
Oh,
students.
wonderful.
Yeah, so this is really great. So please click it and then just to share it. And also, I think the last thing that I wanted to share with you, let me just go before we, oops, sorry, I'm gonna go back, was our next meeting date. So I just wanna, because I don't want to keep you too long because it's almost 5:30. So here, we're gonna meet March 25th. That's our date that's set up for. And then it's from 4 to 5:30. And then these are also the other. So we're gonna have this every month till May. And please let us know for a March meeting, like what kind of topic you would be interested in. Because last meeting, Savan told us about the community building. And that's how Patty put together this presentation. So if you have any topic that you are interested in, please let us know. And we would be more than happy to share that topic. Or this can be even like where we come together and share our best practices. And that can be really good too. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm gonna stop recording.